Welcome everyone to our weekly Torah learning class of spreading more light into the world. We always like to start off with giving because how we give, that's how Hashem can and will give to us. So let's give generously so Hashem will give us generously. I'm going to put some coins in the tzedakah box. We always like to start off with Tehillim and names for people that need healing and for the IDF and for all Klal Yisrael. So we're going to say Refuah Shalema for Chana Yenta Rivka Bas Shendel, Chana Bela Bas Devora, Yosef ben Devora Leah, Razel Bas Adas, Rafal Chaimer ben Simachasha, Devora Leah Bas Yafa Liba, Moshe Yehuda ben Golda, and everyone that needs. We're also doing this in merit for all the Chayalim who's protecting the Holy Land and with Hashem's help, protecting all of us. And I'm having everybody in mind, but today I'm going to say two names, Rafal ben Devor Leah and Shalom Dover ben Basia Peril. Hashem should protect them always, and they should be very successful in their mission. I do this weekly and in memory of my dear grandmother. I hope she's proud, Rivkadina Bas Yosef Yehuda, and my great uncle who passed away this year. To save a life is saving a world, and he saved many in the Soviet Union. For his neshama, Chaim Dober ben Betzalel, and my grandmother who recently passed, Bela Bas Betzalel. We're going to start with Psalm Kapitel Chaf. If everyone can join me from home. Lama Tseach Mizmar LeDavid Yamcha Adonai B'Yam Sarah. Yisagevcha Shem Elehei Akayv Yishlach Ezracha Mikaidesh Umitzian Yisadecha Yiskar Kol Min Chaisecha Ve'elaska Yidash Nasela Yitain Lacha Chavavevcha V'chol Atzescha Yimalei Niranina Bishuasecha V'Shem Elehinu Nidgal Yimalei Adonai Kol Mishalasecha Ata Yadaiti Ki Yashia Adonai Mishicha Yanehu Mishmei Kachai B'Kavaris Yisha Yimanai Ela Barecha Ve'ela Basusim Ba'anachnu B'Shem Adonai Elehinu Naskir Hema Karu V'Nafalu V'Anachnu Kamnu V'Nisaidad Adonai Hashia Hamelach Yanenu B'Yam Karenu. We should hear revealed good news, and all the hostages should come home. We're in the month of Nisan, miracles, and we should see miracles with our own eyes. And really, we should just hear that all the hostages are released, and Hashem can do anything, and he should do it now. Today's class is a very special class. It's really important to publicize when miracles happen. And sometimes we think miracles like in the old ages, but with October 7th that happened, there are so many miracles in it that not enough is told. Today we have with us a Shlucha from Sderot, Israel, Tzivia Pizem, who experienced her own miracle along with her community. And today she's going to share with us what it was like this past Simchas Torah. And we're so grateful that she's here because she's a miracle, her and her family. So thank you.
Hi, Chaya.
And I just want to say that we've been in touch for a few months to do this class. And I think last minute, she was able to make this happen because we don't want 1 week to go by that we don't learn Torah together or hear stories and journeys together, and to bring more light into the world. And her sister, Rachel, is a classmate of mine, and she connected her to me. So thank you for that. And we're so honored to have you today.
Thank you, Chaya. I'll start with saying a little bit about myself. Like Chaya said, she knows my sister. My maiden name is Brooke, now I'm Tzivia Pizem, and I live in Sderot, but I grew up in Crown Heights to my wonderful parents, Yossi and Zahava Brooke. And after about 2 years after we got married, we moved to Sderot to join my brother-in-law here on Shluchas. When we moved here, even Israelis did not know where I was moving to. It was this little city somewhere in the south that nobody had a clue where it was. Unfortunately, I can say that today, I think pretty much everybody knows where it is. And we moved here on Shluchas. Today we're on Shluchas here with our 10 children. And we focus a lot on the kibbutzim that are surrounding Sderot. It's called kibbutzei Otef Otef Aza. Kibbutzei Shara Negev, it's called. And we focus our shluchas today with the kibbutzim. That's what we try to do and to work with. We have we've been living here almost 24 years, and missiles, Kassamim, what they're called here, have been landing here for over 22 years. They started, landing like once, half a year, and then it started becoming worse. And depending on the time, we've had days where we've had 100 in a day, and we've had, 6 months of having nothing at all. But there was always this somewhere in the background that it could happen, and a missile could land. So that's basically something we've been living with our entire lives here. So when Simchas Torah, October 7th happened, to us in the beginning, we didn't quite understand what was going on. We have a siren that says Tzeva Adom, the color red. The siren goes off every time a missile is actually heading to our city. And it's something that's been going on for so long that when it happens, we're used to it. We know what to do, kind of like in the States, you have a fire drill and you practice, except when you have a fire drill, you have like 3 minutes to get out of the building. We have less than 15 seconds to get to a bomb shelter, because that's how short, that's the amount of time that it takes for the missile from the minute it's launched out of Gaza to land by us. It's less than 15 seconds. And that's exactly how much time we have to run to a bomb shelter or, get on the floor, depending where you are and in what situation it caught you, as to what you need to do. So we're kind of used to that situation. My parents actually moved to Sderot about 5 years ago, and they live right next to me. So on Simchas Torah, we were all together. It started at 6:30 in the morning with our sirens going off, and we weren't surprised. We weren't, we didn't get excited. We didn't really think it was anything different. There were a lot more than the usual. And from 6:30 and on in the morning, it didn't stop. It just kept coming and coming. Missiles kept landing. And at some point we were debating, what do we do now? We felt like we need to go to the Chabad house. We need to go to Shul because it's Simchas Torah. So we need to go. And we also figured there probably won't be a lot of people because of the situation. A lot of people won't be coming out. So we definitely need to go. That was our, train of thought. Now, okay, so we know that missiles are landing, so we need to be careful in that perspective. But we didn't know that there was something else a lot worse going on, that there were terrorists walking around in the streets. So when we decided that we're going, the only thing we had in mind is, how do we walk in between the missiles, basically? What do we do? How do we go? And so we were in the family home. I had 3 boys in the States by the rabbi for Tishrei, and I had 1 son in Sri Lanka. So other than that, everyone was home. And we decided that we're not all going to go out together, because that's not safe. We'll go out like in pairs. And basically at 10:30 in the morning is when we started leaving the house. Between 10:30 and 12 is when we all left. 10:30, my father was actually the first one to leave. And he walked to the Chabad house. And later on, he actually said that somebody stopped him and yelled at him and said, you shouldn't be walking around, there are terrorists. And my father thought, really? Terrorists? Come on, this is Sderot. So it was, my father walked to Shul. After that, my husband went with my married son and my then 12-year-old. They walked. Now they walked and they started heading towards the mikveh, and somebody stopped them and told them that they were terrorists, they shouldn't go that way. And that's one of the many miracles, is that where the mikveh was, there were a lot of terrorists walking around. So somebody stopped them before they went there. So then they went to the Chabad house. Then my daughters walked. And then I was the last to walk. I walked out with my mother and my daughter-in-law and my 1-year-old baby. We walked. Now it was eerily quiet. I mean, it was like so quiet outside. It was like kind of scary. Just the quiet was kind of scary. And we walked really quickly, in our head, we walked quickly so that a missile shouldn't land in between while we're walking. We walked really, really quickly to the Chabad house. We get to the Chabad house, the door is locked. And we're like, well, why is the door locked? It's a shul. I mean, really? We start knocking and they're yelling, who is it? And I'm like, what do you mean, who is it? It's me, open the door. They open the door, tell us, get inside quickly, quickly. We got inside and they locked the door behind us. I'm like, what is going on? They're like, there are terrorists walking around the streets. We're like, what? In the beginning, nobody understood the capacity of what was going on. And then even when we heard terrorists, we thought maybe there was like one terrorist, running around and they were trying to catch him. Nobody actually really understood the extent of what was going on. So we came to the Chabad house, and in the Chabad house, there were other people there already. Because same as us, they didn't quite know what was going on, and they had walked to shul. In total, there were 9 men there. And aside for me and my mother and my girls, one other woman was there with her baby. And okay, now we're trying to decide, okay, what do we do? So now we're locked in the Chabad house, but now what? And my husband decided that he's going out and he's going to bring his brother, who's the head shliach, Rabbi Zev Pizem. He's going to bring him because there needs to be a minyan. It's Simchas Torah. There needs to be Simchas Torah. And so he went out. Now again, this is now 6-7 months later when I'm saying it. Obviously, if we would have known what was really going on, I mean, no one would have gone anywhere. But we didn't. And so he walked and he went to his brother's house, and his brother opened the door and told him, you crazy? What are you walking around outside? There are terrorists everywhere. He's like, what do you mean? We're 9 people. We need a minyan. He's like, I'm not going. Like, what do you mean you're not going? You need to go. So he said, no. So my husband told him, you know what? Okay, you're a shliach for the Rebbe, right? Open the Igros Kodesh. The Igros Kodesh it's a set of books of letters compiled that the Rebbe has written over the years to people. Over the past, many, many years, letters the Rebbe has written, they've compiled books, I think there's like 32. And people who look for guidance will either write a letter and put it inside one of the books, or, which today was Shabbos, you just, open it to read a letter to see what the Rebbe was talking about in that letter. The letter was talking about a minyan and davening. And so they both understood that, okay, they're going to the Chabad house because there obviously needs to be a minyan. So they walked to the Chabad house. As they walked already, by the time they walked, which was like 1 PM, the army was here already. So they walked with soldiers up to the Chabad house. They came in, and we spent the entire day in the Chabad house. Luckily, there was lots of food because we were expecting, over 100 people to come for a Simchas Torah. And we stayed there. They davened. We had a davening. We had hakafas in between. We started hearing already what was going on. We heard about the party, and we heard about the party, the festival that was going on, and what was going on there. And then we also heard that it's besides for Sderot, and the police station was taken over. And then we heard that about the kibbutzim, and then it really hit home when we heard that Ophir Lipstein, who was I don't know what it's called in English, but he was the Rosh HaMoatza, like he was kind of like the mayor of the kibbutzim. And we heard that he was killed. And he is a friend of my husband's. And we were like, okay, wait, this is real. Like, all of a sudden when there's a name and you like really know him, and my husband's like, I spoke to him half an hour before Yontif. Like, he called him to wish him good Yontif. It was just like, okay, wait a minute, this is like real. There's really people getting killed, and there's really terrorists walking around. And what do we do? And I'm sitting there and I'm with my kids. And I mean, I'm sure people have heard of all the horrific things that happened. And, people were just talking, not realizing that there were actually children sitting there. And at some point I asked everyone, please remember that there are children sitting here. And really, nobody has to hear the gory details. We understand that it's horrific, but we really don't have to get into the details that children don't need to hear. And that's how we spent our Simchas Torah Shabbos in the Chabad house, locked in, hearing, here and there what's going on. And we were there till about an hour after Shabbos came out. And that's when the army told us that they were outside already. And at that point, they told us that we can drive home. Which, when I look back, honestly, they probably shouldn't have told us to go home because there were still terrorists walking around. But nobody really knew exactly what was going on. So they had told us that we can go. They said drive home, just don't drive with lights on, so that basically we can't be identified. And all of us, we were, I think, 10. Yeah. We were 11. All 11 of us got into the car. Everyone, one on top of the other, and we drove home. That was Matzah Shabbos. And then we started thinking about, okay, 1 minute. The kids in New York, we're sure they're hearing things, and we're not sure what they're hearing or what they know that's going on. We realized when we came home that, the extent of people who were just really worried and scared for us, because the rumors that were going around were basically that all the people who went to Shul in Sderot were being killed. Because it started early in the morning, and there were people who were heading to Shul who were shot or injured, people we personally know. And those were the rumors going around. Then also we didn't have our phones. So we also weren't answering phones an hour after. Like, people were sure that something happened to us because we weren't answering anybody's phones. So, like, my family and friends laugh at me. They're like, your WhatsApp status said, I'm alive. And that was it. Like, I just put up, I'm alive. Now just don't bother me. I didn't have time to, look at the phone or be on the phone. I was really focused on being with the kids. The years of having missiles has given me, I guess, the experience of knowing that, this is crucial, that the children now have a safe place. They know that we're with them, we're there. I'm not busy with my phone. I'm not busy listening to the news or anything else like that. We're busy to be with them, to, give them whatever kind of security blanket we could. My older kids said we can't fall asleep. It's like, we just sat and we said Tehillim in the dark, because we were told, to keep everything closed, windows, doors, shades, lights. This way, if terrorists are walking around outside, it doesn't look like there's somebody in there. And that's really what we did. And with our kids in New York, we figured, we'll try to call maybe someone who is not Jewish who will answer the phone. So we found someone who works with one of my siblings, and we called and we said, listen, if you see anybody from our family, just tell them we're alive. And in retrospect, like, we asked our kids, like, how did you feel like when you started hearing about it? And each kid felt something else. One, said, no, sure, you're okay. The other one said, but by the time I processed what was going on, we already heard you were alive. And the third one said, I was waiting for a phone call, to hear that something happened. Like, he's like, I was sure I heard Sderot going to Shul. I was sure something happened. So at some point they knew that, we're alive. And now we're sitting in our house, basically knowing that there are terrorists just roaming the streets, slaughtering people. And there's no control. Our police station has been taken over, as everyone is well aware. We lost many of our cops, friends. And, it's something that we're still processing today. I mean, at the time it was horrific, and, it's still something that we're processing. Like, every once in a while, like, I'll see a picture and I'll say, oh, wait a minute, he was also killed. It's something that doesn't end. It keeps, coming up. And that's just here in Sderot. Now, we also know a lot of people from the kibbutzim because we work with them. I also teach in their school. I'm an English teacher in the kibbutz school. So, I mean, I have students who were kidnapped, I have students who were murdered. It was just a horrible, 48 hours just till it was under some kind of control before we even started processing what was really and actually going on. And that was our Matzah Shabbos. So we basically set up and we sat Tehillim, and like I said, we were listening, to what was going on with some of the people we knew, families we knew in the kibbutzim. And like I said, some of my students we have two of my students who were kidnapped, two girls who came back, because they're both kids and they're under 18, two girls, Daphne and Agam. And but we have students who were students who graduated from our school and they were murdered. And then we're okay, so we're sitting at Matzah Shabbos, we're processing, or we're imagining that we're processing what's going on. Right now we know that, okay, we need to stay here. Some of my kids slept in the bomb shelter, we basically, we're trying to figure out what we can do as much as we were able to sleep. I think I slept 2 hours that night. And Sunday morning rolls around, we're still getting messages from the city to stay locked in. Don't open your doors, don't open your windows. In the meantime, there are missiles raining in our city, and it's already landing and hitting homes and destroying things along the way. We have something called the Iron Dome, which is a missile that basically meets the missile coming out of Gaza mid-air and makes it explode so it doesn't land on something. But I guess there just wasn't enough. It wasn't keeping up because there were thousands coming out on that day. So it just wasn't keeping up. So missiles started landing on houses, property, cars, anything that was basically out and around and going on. It hit our electricity cable, so we had no electricity on Sunday. So you can imagine, we're locked in the house, no doors, no windows, no air conditioner, boiling hot. And this is how we're processing our day. And we're just trying to stay to home. We're trying to keep the kids busy and, sane, I guess you could say, as much as possible. At some point on Sunday, it was like, okay, we have to breathe air. And we went outside a little bit, and we have a wall around our house. But my son and my daughter-in-law were looking out, and they were like, very quietly, they're catching a terrorist here. Literally, they watched how the army caught a terrorist behind our house, like on the main street behind our house. And so they saw that. That was our Sunday. We're like, okay, next day. Now we're Monday. I mean, we're talking about over 48 hours of terrorists walking around, nobody knowing what's going on. There's no, it's literal chaos. It's so hard to imagine, because even today I can't imagine it. Like, the fire department wasn't working because the chief of the fire department was also killed. He was murdered. And the police isn't working. And all of a sudden, army is walking around like in between. It was just something out of a horror film. Okay, we're Monday. Now, people started leaving the city, but on the other hand, people were afraid to actually get into a car, because they said if we get into a car, a missile could hit us on the way. And there were still terrorists walking around. So, you didn't know anymore what was safer, to just stay in your house locked in or to just get out of here. So we were deciding what to do. This is Monday. Now, I'll go back a few years. Like I said, Sderot has been hit with missiles for many, many years. And about probably over 18, 19 years ago, there was a time, it was Shavuos time, I think, that a lot of missiles were landing. And we were debating what to do, because a lot of people in Sderot were leaving. And we were debating, because we said, on the one hand, we're on Shluchas here. This is, our duty to be here and to help whoever needs help. On the other hand, it's dangerous. Like, where do you put that fine line? So then at the time, my husband and I, we wrote into the Igros Kodesh. Like I was explaining before, these books with letters from the Rebbe that help and guide you in times that you really need guidance. And we wrote a letter, asking, it's dangerous on the one hand, on the other hand, we're on Shluchas, it's our duty, what do we do? And our answer was very straightforward and clear. The Rebbe wrote, there was an answer there that said, Hinei lo yanun v'lo yishan shumei Yisrael, and the rest of the pasuk where it's saying that Hashem is here and he's watching you always. And we understood from that Hashem is watching us always, we're not going anywhere. And we have really never ever left Sderot during a time where a war was going on, missiles were landing, things like that. We never escaped the city, we always stayed. So that was one of the things, we're like, okay, on the one hand, we never leave, but on the other hand, this isn't just missiles. I mean, this is a whole nother story, really. It's something else, so my mother decided that she's like, okay, you don't want to write, I'm writing. So my mother wrote a letter, and my mother's answer was to make a Sudat Hodaya on Yud Tes Kislev. Sudat Hodaya is like a meal of giving thanks. When some kind of miracle happens, something happens, you have a meal, and it's to say thank you to Hashem, to God, for doing something for us. And we thought, okay, I mean, that's sounds really strange. I mean, Kislev was 2 months away. I mean, it sounded like, absurd. 2 months. I mean, even when we have something in Sderot, it lasts a week, maybe, 2 weeks max, I think is the longest we've ever had. Okay, that was her answer. My husband decided, okay, that he's also going to write. And his answer was to ask a rabbi. And it should be a rabbi who is from your city and from your Ida. Ida is there's Ashkenazi and Sephardi. So it was very interesting because a lot of people in our community are Sephardi. So he figured the only rabbi he knows that's not is his brother. So he called his brother and he asked his brother advice, what's the right thing to do? So he told him that the right thing to do right now is that the women and children should leave, and that my husband and my father will stay in Sderot. So we decided, okay, that's our answer. And I'm very practical, and I'm like, okay, that's our answer. We're leaving now, not tomorrow, and not now. It's like pack, everyone just pack 2 or 3 clothings, whatever you think you need for the next, we thought maybe 2 days. Pack it and we're going. And we were leaving in 2 cars. My married son said that he'll drive us. We said we're heading out to Yerushalayim. We have friends who live there, and we said we'll go to them. And he said, okay, he'll drive one car and I'll drive mine. Now, my car has its own story. First of all, my car is electric. I brilliantly bought an electric car about a month before the war. And like I said, there was no electricity in Sderot, so I kind of didn't have how to recharge my car battery. So my car battery is very low right now. I'm trying to figure out, where's the closest to go to recharge my battery. That's one problem. The other problem was that our car was actually in a kibbutz called Kibbutz Nir Am. Kibbutz Nir Am is the kibbutz the closest to Sderot, right outside of Sderot is the entrance to that kibbutz. And that's a kibbutz that my husband's been going to for the past 6 years on Friday nights to pray with the people there. They've asked him to start coming, and he did. And he goes and he walks there Friday nights, and then COVID was, and it stopped a little bit. And now for Simchas Torah, they asked him, Rabbi, we want you to come and to do hakafas. We want to dance with the Torah on Simchas Torah. And their plan to begin with was that they're doing it, they're going to be doing it on Shabbos day, on Saturday morning. And they planned that at 10 o'clock in the morning, that's when they're going to do it. So my husband said, okay, 10 o'clock in the morning is fine. It takes about an hour to walk there. So 10 o'clock is, a good time. I can manage to get up and do whatever I need and walk there. But Friday before Shabbos, he drove the car there to bring everything he needed there, like the food and drinks and the Sefer Torah. So he drove. When he came there, the people met him and they said, Rabbi, we want to do also tonight. Can you stay? And we also want to do tonight. So my husband called me, he said, listen, I'm staying in the kibbutz and I'll just walk back home after. They want to do also hakafot, to dance with the Torah tonight. So he stayed in the kibbutz and they had, their the hakafot, they danced with the Torah, and then they decided together that tomorrow they want to pray at 8 o'clock in the morning. So my husband said, listen, 8 o'clock in the morning, I can't make it here. It's too early, it's too much to walk, and that's also a decision and a miracle, because if they would have decided that they're praying at 10 o'clock, my husband would have walked to the kibbutz, being that we didn't know what was going on. And at the entrance to Sderot, which the junction of the entrance to Sderot and that kibbutz, it was full of terrorists. People were slaughtered there, left and right. Any car that tried leaving, the people were killed. So that's another one of our miracles, is that they decided that they're not praying at 10 o'clock, but at 8. And so he's not going there. And that kibbutz also had a really big miracle where they're what's called a kitat konenut. It's people who live on the kibbutz who are armed, and that if there's any kind of situation, like they're all called in and they said, okay, get your guns and come out. And they were basically told, somebody had seen terrorists coming, and they were told, everybody get up and go. And that kibbutz killed all the terrorists before they actually entered their kibbutz itself. That was kibbutz Nilam. And so my car is now stuck in the kibbutz. Of course, it's now a military zone. Nobody's allowed in, out. I need a car. My husband calls a friend of his who works in the army and lives on that kibbutz. And he says, listen, I have to get my car out. So he said, okay, I'm gonna tell the people sitting there, the army, that they should let you in. He said, but I need a favor from you. He said that the embassy of Thailand called, and they have people who are living in Sderot who are in an apartment, a house, and they refuse to leave, and they have no food. So he said, listen, Rabbi, I'll switch. You come get the car, and I'll give you the car, and you go give them food. So my husband went to there. Then he went back to the Chabad house to get food. And he was in the Chabad house to get the food. Now we're talking about we're Monday, we're something a little bit before 4 o'clock. Now remember, I said, I'm a very practical person. Like, okay, for me, it's time to go, it's time to go. So we made a set. I said, I'm going at 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock, my husband calls up. He said, listen, I got the car, but I have to go give the Thailand's food. I'm like, oh my God, I just really want to go already. When you're at some point where you've had it and you're just like, that's it, out of here now. And I was like, really? Now? That's what? And as we're talking on the phone, and he says, okay, listen, I have to go and I'm coming. He drove out of the Chabad house, and we're still waiting inside the house. And at that precise moment, 2 missiles landed. One landed in the yard of the Chabad house where he had just drove the car out, which I'll now, let's see if I can do this. All right, I'm going to share screen. Okay, this is a picture of the missile that landed in the Chabad house in the yard. As you can see, it's a lot. And then his car was there. He picked up food from inside where you see the soldier standing there, and he had just driven out of there. And another missile landed 2 houses away from me, a direct hit in a house. Now, if we were outside getting ready to go into the car, we would have been hit with all the shrapnel, because that's exactly where it all landed. So I said, what a miracle that I told him was the only time that it was okay that you were late. Is that saved us from being hit with shrapnel. And and he came home, and then we said, okay, so now it's time to go. And like I said, felt like in between, I wasn't sure if I felt like the people from Ukraine and the war that was going on, or people from the Holocaust, where they were told, like, take a bag with you and go. That was the feeling. It was like, take a bag. It's like, what do I take with me? When am I coming back? What's going on? It was that kind of feeling. So we packed up, and, we drove with, I laugh when I say it was so unsafe, but on the other hand, it was the safest of being unsafe. Like, we weren't sure what was unsafe anymore. My mother sat behind me holding my baby. My 14-year-old daughter sat next to me holding my 5-year-old daughter. And in my son's car, my other two kids were sitting next to the doors, and the reasoning for that was that if we're driving and there's a siren and there's a missile, everyone can open the doors and get out. Because to be in a car isn't exactly very safe. It's hot metal, if something lands, explodes. So a glass, windows. So basically in your mind, what's running is like, how do I, like, what's the best situation for the worst situation possible? And that's basically how we drove out. So that was, Monday, a little bit after 4, we drove out. There was, the roads were empty. There was nobody aside for, army trucks that we kept seeing. And we drove to the closest, I guess you would say, considered safe place, which was called Bet Kama. I looked up where I have an electric recharger, and it said that there. So I said, okay, so we stop there, we come there, and I'm looking for a recharger, and of course, the one that it said, on the app wasn't working. And then some nice person from the kibbutz came to me and said, what do you look? I said, look, I'm trying to recharge my car. And where we came in, there was something called, I think it's called a chapaka. I'm not sure, but it's like a place where people bring things and to give out to people and whatever they can do to help. There was food there to give to people, and people were just basically waiting around there to see what can they do to help the people who are coming out of the south. It was really, Am Yisrael was, and still is, just unbelievable, and we've experienced it. Like I always say, we're Chabad, we're usually on the other side, we're the ones giving and being on that. And all of a sudden I was switched roles, I was on the other side where I needed to receive. Because, right now we were considered homeless, we have nothing with us, literally. And there were people trying to help, and so this really nice guy came and he said, okay, you know what, I have a recharger in my house, come and recharge in my house. I said, okay, listen, but my mother's here and she has to, we're heading to Jerusalem. So he said, look, I'll find somebody here maybe who can drive her. He went into this place and somebody comes out 5 minutes later, he's like, I'll drive him to Jerusalem. We're talking about an hour drive. Like, it's not next door. It was like an hour to drive them. And so he drove my mother and 3 of my kids to Jerusalem. They went. And my mother's like, he was so nice. And, instead of him making like my mother feel like he was doing her a favor, it was the opposite. Like, he kept telling her, thank you, in your honor, I'm going to go visit my parents because they live in Yerushalayim. Like, because I have to drive you, I get to go visit my parents. Really, like, all these small little things were unbelievable. And right before they're leaving, they're going to Jerusalem, I'm going to recharge the car. My father calls, and my mother comes to tell me, like, very quietly, like trying to hint, without the kids hearing or anything. She's like, they caught 2 right in front of your house. I'm like, they caught 2 right in front. I'm like, wait a minute, they caught what? She's like, yeah, you got it. Basically, they caught 2 terrorists right in front of my house on Monday, half an hour after we left. My husband, officially, in the city, they said that you can walk out. And my husband walked out of the house, opened the gate. And as he opened the gate, he saw a white van and the army right behind him. And the army stopping them, taking the terrorists out of the car and catching them. So that was like to add to our miracles in case we needed a few more. And that's where we were at. And then I stayed by this family, and like I said, Am Yisrael, just really unbelievable. They were so nice, they don't know us. They set me up, a baby bed, and they're like, rest till your car is charged. What can we do for you? What can we get for you? And she was like, at some point she asked me, what can I use something to eat? And I said, no, really, I just kind of wanted to get to my destination already and be able to put my head down. And a few minutes later, she comes to me and she says, look, if you need a kosher kitchen, my neighbor has a kosher kitchen, I can go cook by you. I said, I was so touched by that. I said, didn't say anything, didn't mention anything, but it was so important to her to make me feel, as comfortable as I could, that anything, whatever I needed, she was trying to help. I didn't ask her for a kosher kitchen or anything, but she figured, I guess, from, what I looked like, that I needed a kosher kitchen. And And like, we finally made it to Jerusalem at about 12 o'clock at night. You know, we got to our friend's house and we're like, okay, finally, you know, maybe some kind of safe place, sanity. We're all crammed there. Everything is lovely. Or at least we think it's lovely. And we go rest. We get up Tuesday morning, and about 9:15 in the morning, get a phone call together with a video from my husband and my father. They're like, "Oh, it hit your house." I'm like, "No." Like, "Yep, a direct hit to your house." My house was hit from a missile 9:15 in the morning on Tuesday. We left Monday night. Tuesday morning, my house was hit. My husband was with my father in their house, which is right behind me. And they were getting ready, they stayed in Sderot so that they can help. My husband, my father, my brother-in-law, my nephew, they all stayed in Sderot, all the men, and they worked 24 hours a day, literally giving people whatever they needed, helping people get out, get medication to people who were stuck here. Then the soldiers came, so they were doing whatever they needed for the soldiers, literally. Anything, the food, clothes, you know, delivering packages that were being transferred. Like I said, you had somebody a few weeks ago, Chaya, her maiden name is Schneider, Chaya Cole, her son is in the army here. And like they delivered something, so it came through us so that, you know, we can get it to them. Basically, whatever we were able to do for the soldiers. So they were getting ready to go out to the soldiers at 9 o'clock in the morning. And then there was a siren, you know, Tzivia Dome. They felt the entire house shake, and they basically then walked up to our house and they saw that our house was completely destroyed, which I will now try to show you some of the pictures of our house. So this is, okay, this what you see here is the inside of my house. As you can see, the really big hole. The missile came straight into here. This is a beam of the house. And you can see our beautiful picture of the Rebbe, which is made out of glass, still standing on the wall. All the glass is shattered in the house. On the right side of the picture, the Rebbe is also glass, like a glass door, and that's also shattered. But the picture of the Rebbe is standing there, watching us, looking over us, protecting us, whichever, you know, whichever one you'd like to say or do. And you can see from here, this is what my kitchen looked like. It is now completely out and destroyed. We need to make a new one. Right. Hold on. Okay. And so that was our Tuesday, you know. I'm gonna show you one more picture where you can see from the outside of the house. There you go. And you see the hole here, that's like where it landed from, came in, and that's just the outside, some of the damage that you can see. So you could just understand that, I mean, if God forbid we were home, even if we would run to the bomb shelter and, you know, even if we would have gone to the bomb shelter, I mean, first of all, not necessarily do you make it there. It's like I said, you have less than 15 seconds. I mean, today it's even like 12 seconds. I mean, try thinking about what you can do in 12 seconds. So if you're on one side of the house, even if you had to run to the other, that's a really, really big miracle. That is just, I mean, you know, afterwards we said, now we understood what the Rebbe told my mother, that we need to make a Suda Todaya. Like we need to make, you know, a meal to thank Hashem for all of our miracles that, that took place in our house. And just, I mean, really, we like, we have some friends who like heard me, they're like, you know, but you, one miracle wasn't enough, right? Like you just needed to keep going, didn't you? You know, one miracle after the other, really. I mean, look, starting with the fact that we walked to Shul and miraculously, we didn't see any terrorists didn't see us. I don't live far from the police station. I live a 5-minute walk from the police station. We know that there were terrorists walking around over there. We know that there were terrorists walking around on the other side of my house. We know that they were everywhere. And, you know, then just being home and being able to get out. And the missile landing in our house, and just really miracle after miracle. Another one of our beautiful miracles is that our son had lost many friends in the Nova Festival. And one of our miracles is that he wasn't there. He lost many friends there, but he at this point started, he chose to be in Sri Lanka. He said he wanted to go there a little bit to help a Chabad house. He was becoming a little bit more religious, and he said he wasn't going to be here, so he actually wasn't here. So he's one of our many beautiful miracles that we have. And that's it. Our husbands, men really stayed in Sderot to help whatever they could and to do whatever they could. And if you ask me, every second they were here was a miracle. They walked around with like soldiers with helmets and life vests. I mean, not life vests, I forgot what they're called. The vests that the army wear and the police wear, against bullets and things like that. Literally, that's the way they were walking around in between missiles and running to do and to help whoever they could in whatever way they can. And then we stayed in Jerusalem for a few months. We had some very nice people. Like I told you, Am Yisrael is amazing. This wonderful family that gave us a house to live in Yerushalayim, in an area called Yemin Moshe, a really nice house. People we still haven't met, which we're hoping to meet when they come here, but it's basically like their vacation home. And they so willingly and happily gave it to a family of many kids. It wasn't going to stay a museum. Like when they offered it, I said, you do realize I'm going to be there with kids. It's not going to stay a museum. Like, no, we're really happy and we want to give it to you. And really, people were amazing all around, helping whatever they could. If we can give you meals, clothes, food, how can we help you take the kids, register them to school? Really, it was this feeling of togetherness. Our nation really, you feel it till today, that everyone just is coming together and really trying to look at the good in whatever horrific nightmare we're living in, and we're still living in. And we're trying to, see the miracles and the good things. And, every time afterwards, when we met somebody from our community, it was like, wow, you're alive. It was something that we didn't take for granted. You take for granted that you see your neighbor. You take for granted that, you go to shul and you'll see all the people who come. You take for granted that you'll see your community and your classmates. There wasn't anything for granted. I mean, for me, it was also difficult with my staff and my students. That was also something that every time I saw, students and my staff members, and it was really like you're alive. Because, I mean, we lost staff members, we lost students. It was just a wow. And we kept looking at the miracles, like everybody I knew, I said, okay, tell me your story, because everybody has a story. Everybody who lives in this area has a story. And many of them are really miraculous stories, because there are, I mean, the fact that anyone is alive is really a true miracle. Where we have, I mean, one of my students the twins, they live in one of the kibbutzim, and I knew where they live, and I was really afraid to send them a message. I'm like, okay, guys, what's going on with you? And they're like, Mrs. Pizem, listen, I don't know why, but we weren't home. They're like, the day before they decided they're leaving, they're going to see their friend somewhere. So the whole family wasn't there. I have another friend who lives in one of the other kibbutzim that was really hit hard, Nachal Oz. And she has a disabled son. And she said and they went into their house, they stayed in the bomb shelter, and miraculously nothing happened to them. We don't know why. There were no answers to these things, like why some houses were hit, like one was hit and destroyed and burnt down, and the other one wasn't touched at all. There were really no explanation for these things, and just miracles. I mean, really, really, really miracles that happened. I'll end with just Ophir Lipstein's wife. I told you he's the mayor of the kibbutzim, and my husband went to his funeral, and at that point his son was missing. In other words, he was killed, and he had a son that was considered missing at the time. And at the funeral, his wife asked, this is one thing I need, is that, we should know what is going on with him. And a day later, they found him. He was also killed. Unfortunately, he was murdered. But she came to my husband and she said, I want you to know that you called my husband half an hour before the Chag. And I told my husband, I said, you're not answering anybody. And you don't answer. We're busy with the family, getting ready. Da, 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 da. And he said, no. He said, Rabbi Pizem, I'm picking up the phone. So he had that last, connection with him of, wishing him a Chag Sameach. And he was truly an amazing person who really cared and did and tried to help in whatever way he could. And I think the fact that we're here and we're standing and we can tell our story, I think is a miracle. And just every time I rethink, I can't believe it's like we're months and months after this, and I'm still retelling the story, and I'm still amazed, that I walked to shul and I actually made it alive. Like, I left the day before my house was hit. All these little things that just really, truly, I guess, keep us and remind us that Hashem runs the world and that we need to look for the miracles. And we really need to ask for Mashiach right now, because that's the only solution to all of our dilemmas and problems and everything that's going on, is that we really just need to ask Hashem to bring Mashiach right now.
Wow. And I just thought you had like one little miracle to share. I heard some of it, but a lot of it's new. And then all these incredible miracles from your community, but then also so much pain that came out of your community because you lost so many loved ones, and we don't understand. And someone came to the Lubavitcher Rebbe and they said, asked about the Holocaust, and he said we're only going to understand when Mashiach comes. We're not going to know. And every single neshama, every single soul, every single person that was murdered and lost were tzaddikim. They were holy, holy souls that is now upstairs closer to God. And we don't understand, and we don't have answers. And, like, how could you comfort someone that has lost? You can't. There's nothing really to do. But the only thing that is comforting, and I think for all Klal Yisrael, for all of us, because we're seeing so much pain around the world. There's anti-Semitism. Like just the other day in Crown Heights, it was a car driving down Kingston Avenue with I'm going to call it the fake flag, the Palestinian flag that doesn't really exist, in there, like on top. And I ran after the car, and I said, shame on you, shame on you. It actually went viral, without me realizing, because I didn't want to send out my video because I didn't want anyone to see like the person taking down the flag. But I was so proud. These two Chabad guys sprang into action, knocked on his door very calmly, and to take it off. And he had two signs on each side of his car, and he still, and it was very interesting because he wasn't like an angry looking type of person, but he came with a mission. He came on the Chag. It was very Cholamide, and it was, not a lot of people in the streets, but I was like, no, this is not going to happen in Crown Heights, Brooklyn. Absolutely not. And I said, shame on you, shame on you. And I said, whatever you wish upon us should happen to you. That was my blessing to him. And two guys took down his flag, ripped it off so smoothly. It was just, I was so happy. And he came out of his car. I mean, you have to be careful from these people. They could have a weapon. So like quickly I backed away because, you still have to be careful. But I had all the footage, and, he got a message, don't mess with us. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe sent out a very strong message that a terrorist should know that you are going to take action first. That if they try to kill you, you're going to kill them first. And we have to know that we have to stand strong. And all these, I'm going to call them warriors in the college campuses, they have a lot. They have to stand up for the Jewish people. They have to stand up for our nation. They are our voice. And it's scary. It's scary to, just we interviewed Nathaniel Crisp a few months ago because he stood up to hate. And all again, he has to stand up to hate again. They locked him in. They like literally didn't let him walk anywhere. And this is going on in all the campuses. I mean, but at the end of the day, love wins. And we are the most beautiful nation. Strangers helped you find a home, not just a home, a beautiful home. You lived in paradise for a few months, and it helps. It helps when you're in pain to have a nice place to live and you weren't cramped. And it was still so painful, but the comfort that I'm hearing from everyone, because we're all affected, all of us, like, me in America, you in Israel, we're all one. We're literally one people. Someone asked me, my neighbor, I mentioned this before, and he's not Jewish. And he said to me, how are you after October 7th? And I said, I started talking about the people in Israel. And he said, no, I asked how you're doing. And I said, I'm them and they're me. And his jaw just dropped. And and I said it again, I'm them and they're me. And we're one people. We're literally one. And the ones that survive, we have a lot of work to do in this world. And the ones that, perished, we also have a lot of work to do because we need to, continue their legacy and what they would want from us, and to be their voice and to share their stories and their journeys. And, they're beautiful neshamas that they were. And we have to stop judging each other. We just have to be the best version of ourselves in this world. And I know you can go on and on and on sharing all these horrific stories, but at the end of the day, we have to look at the prize, and the prize is you're here, you're a miracle, you're living. And the next prize is going to be Mashiach. Mashiach is coming. The Rebbe promised us is coming in our generation, and he will. So I spoke to a bunch of elementary girls, and the topic was for me October 7th. And I'm going to ask in a moment for our incredible guest speaker, Tzivia, to share something, which we always want to leave off with something, but I think you'll appreciate this, and all the viewers. And I asked the girls, I said, raise your hand. How bad was Corona? I mean, Tzivia, how bad was Corona? It was bad.
It was terrible until October 7 came around.
And then I said, raise your hand. And they said, Corona had nothing on us. Okay. And Corona was bad. We cried. It was hard. It was hard times. And I told the girls exactly what I'm telling everyone. And, this is our message. I said, we have to focus on the prize. We shouldn't focus on the flags. I mean, just today, I walked by a home in Crown Heights on Union Street. They have a sign that says Free Palestine. I mean, we Jews love free stuff. So I want to ask them, please, let me know, get in line. But of course it makes you angry and upset. But at the end of the day, we have to remember to focus on the prize. Right now, there are background noise trying to distract us from what we need to do. We need to help bring Mashiach. And that's what you're doing, Tzivia. You're helping your community. You're picking up pieces. You're doing what is meant to be done, and all the miracles along the way. Like, imagine you told your husband no, like what most wives would be like, you can't be late. You wouldn't be here today. And you went with your gut, and you had angels looking out for you, straight up, for you, your family, for your community, everyone that survived. And we must focus on the prize, and the prize is Mashiach. So we don't know which mitzvah. Like, your husband went to bring food for that entire, like, I don't know if they were friends or a family in that apartment that wouldn't leave because they were so, frightened and scared. And you were like, oh, I just want to go. But if he didn't go to do that mitzvah to bring the food, again, you wouldn't be here right now. So everything is from upstairs, and we should never, ever pass on a mitzvah. If something comes your way, it's an opportunity. And if you pass on it, you don't know if that's, something that's going to save your life. And In today's day, it's not just a storybook. It's not like the miracles that we heard back in the day. So we always like to leave off with something. And this is not just a story. This is inspo, how to get inspired in your communities. There are viewers from every kind of background on this class. But at the end of the day, we're all the same. We come from the same mother, the same, from all the fathers. We're a child of God. We have a piece of him inside of us, and we're all a puzzle piece. And in order for the puzzle to be complete, we all have to be involved in this mission. So my question to you is, what is your mission statement today? Like, what do you want people to take away from this? How can people help from America? How can
really, there's been lots of help and people do all these things, but everyone from wherever they are, and no matter who they are and what age they are, there's something that, I keep telling people after this that it's really, really important, is to really and truly love the person next to you. You see your neighbor, say good morning. If you had a grudge against somebody, it's time to get rid of it. I spoke to a group of high school girls and I told them, I said, listen, there's this girl who you don't really want to work with, or you don't really want to sit next to. I said, well, you know what? You can sit next to her and you can work with her, because this togetherness, this is what makes us an amazing nation. And this is what makes us also feel like we're doing something. When people say, I live in, I don't know where, in Vancouver. What can I do? And I would say, this is what you can do. If you do something good to your neighbor, for your friend, for your family, for anybody, that is what is going to make us stronger and really, truly bring Mashiach.
And we need him. So we need all of you, including me, including you. We all have a responsibility. And I said this so many times. Someone came to the Lubavitcher Rebbe and she was crying. She lost a loved one. Everyone has some kind of loss in their life. Like no one, it's gullus. We're living in a very dark, hard time. And she was screaming at the Rebbe, and he said to her, it's up to you to bring Mashiach. I did everything I can. She kept going, and he goes, what do you want from me? I gave my entire life for this mission. Now it's up to you and you and you and you and us. And we all need to do more. And everyone knows what their mission is. We all have different missions. But at the end of the day, we need to have Avos Yisrael, extra love, extra kindness for our brothers and sisters, because at the end of the day, we only have each other, and we have to stick to each other like crazy glue, because if we don't, we have nothing. And when we stick to each other like that, no one could break us. I was in Israel a few months ago for a thank God for Simchas. And one thing I really wanted to do is visit the hospitals, because we interviewed someone whose fiance, now they're married, lost his leg, and it was a crazy, crazy miracle. I'm sure you heard of him, Shachar Ben Ronit. We still daven for him. And when I met them in the hospital, I thought I'm going to see one person with someone that doesn't have a leg, but I was the odd one out. No legs, no limbs, and they're smiling at me, and I had whatever candy and treats I had, I gave them with the 12 Psukim book. I said, this is protection. And I said this story, but I'm going to say it again because I think you'll like it, because I don't think you have time on your hands to watch all these classes right now. But one guy would look really, really sad. So I looked at, the people I was visiting, and I'm like, should I go over there? Because I'm shy. And they're like, why did you come here? Of course you should. So I go over to him and I said, I want to give you this treat. It's so good. It's from Trader Joe's. It's peanut butter with chocolate. It's kosher. He was so happy. Then I'm like, I don't know if this will talk to you, but I have this 12 Psukim book. The 12 Psukim is a form of protection for adults and children. And he looked at me and he goes, it's for babies. So I smiled, because really, children say it at all, like the gatherings, even in Israel. And I said to him, I said, maybe, but maybe not. But I know that it's protection for adults and children. So if you want to have it in your possession, I'm just going to give it to you. And he took it with so much happiness. And he told me, the world hates us. And I said, that's true. They do. They hate you. They hate me. I said, but we only have each other. We have to stick together like crazy glue. And that was our conversation. But at the end of the day, I'm a stranger and like we care about each other. I mean, it was so, so painful, but they're almost giving me like strength to like walk through the hospital rooms because it's not a pretty sight to see people missing limbs. And I'm sure you know many. We got to stick to like, we have to stick with each other.
We do, Chaya. I'll end with a story you're telling me about. I was saying how we need to give and you know, just really the little things, nothing really big. When we were in Jerusalem and my daughter started going there to preschool and there was a soldier. There's a soldier placed in front of every school, preschool. At that time, they had them everywhere. And, you know, he was standing outside. I took my daughter inside. I came out, I was in the car and I saw a car driving by and a little kid come out of the car and he went to the soldier and he gave him like, I guess like a chocolate that like they wrapped and put ribbons on it and gave it to him. The smile on the soldier's face. I just stood there and I thought, wow, just wow, that little tiny chocolate bar, you know, that little kid wrapped and put a ribbon on and gave to the soldier was unbelievable. It was, you know, it made his day, it made him smile, and it made that connection. I said to myself, that is the lesson I learned, that the little things, we don't need, you know, to give grand things to people or gestures, the little things, you know, the little chocolate bar is what really makes sense. Thank you, Chaya.
Wow. Thank you for ending off with that beautiful story and lesson for all of us. Before we conclude, I just want to quickly say my thank yous because, you know, in life, it's really important to acknowledge those that help us. Firstly, I want to say thank you to Hashem and the Rebbe for giving me this opportunity of being an ambassador to bringing more light into the world and sharing, getting all these incredible speakers. As of today, I didn't have a class and I called up Tzivia and I said, listen, she goes, when do you want it for? I'm like, today? So she goes, I said, no, I'm not going to make you stay up till 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. So I explained it to her. So we literally put this class together within 20 minutes. She agreed, which you were the right person for this week, no doubt, because we're starting off with miracles, our miracle series. And I really am blown away because I was sitting on the couch and I'm like, listen, Rebbe, like sometimes I have conversations. I'm like, you need to help me. I tried every avenue. Like this one didn't answer. She was supposed to talk this week. That one said she can't do this week. This one. And I was like, the one thing that I really committed to is that every single week, no matter rain or shine, a class goes out. It could be a pre-recording or not. And somehow it always comes through. So I know that upstairs, they're helping me do this and it's meant to be. And when I said you're the Shlucha of the week, you're not just a Shlucha in your town, which I'm sure you're so loved, but now you're going to be the world Shlucha. And you gave so many impactful lessons today and inspired so many people. And I think that everyone, when they wake up in the morning, they should just smile because they're alive. You know, that's all. Like, that's what we have to be thankful for. We're alive. And there's so much work to be done. So we all have to get like busy. I want to say thank you to Shady Jacobson for being my mashpia and mentor for this class. Really grateful to Hashem for that. I want to say thank you to my dear husband for helping me with the tech. I am not techie, and he helps me really put out all the classes on YouTube. And I'm so grateful that he does that because this is my passion. I'm not sure it's his, and it's so nice of him. So he doesn't really watch these classes. Maybe one day he will, but I do feel that it's important to thank those that help. And I want to thank all the ambassadors around the world who put out this class. An ambassador is someone that spreads light. And by being an ambassador, you can become one today. is all you have to do is a click of a button, share the classes on your groups, on your grade chats, class chats, WhatsApp chats. It's so easy. So I would really, maybe you'll want to consider it. And I want to thank all the viewers. I want to thank all the sponsors that sponsor the classes when we need. So thank you so much. And just going to give you guys a little sequel to last week's class, if that's okay. We had, and I wanted to mention in the beginning, but I forgot. We had Henry Eichler and Evie Eichler share how they became religious. And it was from one visit of the Lubavitcher Rebbe that touched him. He had a feeling that he wanted to go see this rabbi. He wasn't religious at the time. And when he went to the rabbi, to the Rebbe told him, get yourself a rabbi. And he did. And right away, right after, just a small, tiny recap, he bumped into Rabbi Lipsker, which is my uncle, in a pizza store. And he approached him, would you be my rabbi? And that's how that relationship started. It was incredible. You guys should check out our YouTube channel under Chaya Mink, ChayaMink. You could press subscribe to see over 108 classes that we have recorded. We had many more. But anyways, on the class, it was ending a little early. And I don't pre-plan what I'm going to say. I mean, me and Tzivia spoke a lot before the class. So, she had a down pat what all the messages that she wanted to put out there. That's why there wasn't that many questions. But there was a little bit of time that we needed to fill with the question. So I asked him, what's your favorite mitzvah? And he said tefillin. And I said, wow. I said, okay. So after he said that, he said a story how he was traveling when he was single and two guys were with him and they were mocking him because he was putting on tefillin. It was the beginning process of him becoming religious. And that's one of the mitzvahs he took upon. Anyways, after the class, I called him up and I said, I need to challenge you, Henry. I said, Henry, if your favorite mitzvah is tefillin, you need to get people to put on tefillin just like you do. And I said, tefillin is protection and it makes the enemies fear us. And the enemies are Hamas. So he said to me, Chaya, you're not going to believe this. I was telling you a story about two guys that were like on my trip watching me put tefillin on, sometimes mocking me. And basically what happened was the guy got in touch and he was on the class at the time, which is crazy. Not religious yet. And he was like, how did you get on my class? Turns out one of the ambassadors, we don't know who, shared it on a chat. This guy's son sees Henry is speaking on some sort of class that he never heard of, messaged his dad, would you like check it out? Sent him the link. He comes onto the class. Anyways, long story short, 2 days in a row, he sends in pictures of himself. He's wrapping tefillin. He took upon himself to put tefillin on just from this class. Me thinking I'm not asking such smart questions. I'm busy messaging my sisters who's on the class, help with more questions. I want to, but it turned out it was exactly what I was meant to ask, that one question, and someone got inspired. So you never know who's going to get inspired. So I hope if you got inspired tonight from this class, you'll reach out to either myself or Tzivia so we can give feedback. We love feedback. We put so much energy and efforts into this class. So we would love to hear feedback from the class, and please consider just keep sharing your light and being the reason why someone smiles today. Thank you so much, Tzivia. This was such a treat for me. I got so inspired today, like it was just me and you, but I know very soon this is going to go pretty viral, and really, really appreciate it. And Hashem should continue showing you that he's with you and protecting you and your family is your community, and all the people that you know, anyone that you know should be protected. And we should get our answers with Mashiach like immediately, because we need him so bad. But while we're in this darkness, let's be the light in the tunnel, like Shani Jacobson says, not the light after the tunnel. And it's so easy to be a light. You just turn it on. You can make people so happy. You can make a phone call, be there for them. And I'm sure like every single day you have so many people that you have to counsel and just so much. So maybe you can also tell us on a practical level before you go, like what we can do now for Israel. Like what else is there to do? I know we're doing so much from here, fundraising, but is there anything else that like you guys need that we can somehow be there for you?
It's actually a very good question, because like you said, really, there was, an outpour of things being sent here and given. I really think that right now people need a lot of emotional support. And I guess that can be done in many different ways. I had a school call me and ask me, they want to send letters. If we can like combine classes, like their 10th grade will write letters to our 10th grade. Small things. I had some organization that wants to send like sports equipment, so the kids in our area, can somehow go out and do sports again, enjoy being outside a little bit. And it's really like the little things now that we need to build for the community and the city and the kibbutzim that really need, to be uplifted. It's all the small things, even like the people who come to visit, and they make that effort and they come here, and I tell them it's so important that you're coming. Like you say, when you go to the hospital and you visit the people, it's so important because it shows, that person who's sitting in the hospital who lost an arm, a leg, whatever it is, to see that there are people and that people really care. I'm not just here stuck alone. And I think that's really the most important right now, is like just to show support in whatever way you can. Everyone is, everyone does things differently. So wherever you are, however you think you can do it, you should do it. Even if it's, like I said, wrapping the chocolate in a ribbon.
Well, thank you. And I hope one day, very soon, I can meet you in person and give you a hug and meet your incredible community. I think you froze. So I want to say thank you to Tzivia and thank you to all of you. And together we are going to make the world a better place, continue to make the world a better place. Thank you so much.